Hello, everyone. My name is Alice. I'm speaking to you today from Mera 25 here in Berlin. I'm joined by Mahmoud. He's one of the organizers of the Faz3a campaign, a very important campaign currently from the West Bank, and he's also a Palestinian activist who currently lives there. We came together today to talk about, the current situation in the West Bank and how critical it has become since Israel began its brutal siege on Gaza last year. Mahmoud, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me today.
Thank you very much, and thank you for organizing this also and giving us the opportunity to spread the word through you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, let's just get right to it. So, to just give our listeners a little bit of an overview. So, since the 1960s, Palestinians have been continuously targeted by the Israeli authorities in the West Bank. The Israeli authorities, they use discriminatory laws, oppressive violence to systemically dispossess Palestinians of their land and homes. These settlements are illegal under international law, yet the international community has failed so far to act against them or to prevent further injustices, especially since Israel's siege on Gaza that started 9 months ago. I've heard from you that the situation in the West Bank has become significantly worse. So to give our listeners an overview, can you describe to us how life is for Palestinians in the West Bank and especially what has changed since last October?
Again, as you mentioned in your introduction, Palestine is under occupation, under military occupation, which is recognized by international law, by the UN agencies. All the UN agencies recognized Palestine as an occupied and living under Israeli military occupation. And that leads to different laws and different circumstances that at the end led to the conclusion that Palestinians are uncitizens. They are not citizens. No one recognized the Palestinians as citizens. And as a result of this, there is no laws. And this is the situation that is the accumulation of the 50 plus years of occupation. There are Palestinians who are living in the West Bank, East Jerusalem, Gaza, and even inside Israel itself, that they are discriminated. And this discrimination sometimes is latent, sometimes it's overt and can be seen easily, especially in the West Bank and Gaza. So there is this discrimination that reflects on the Israeli policies against the Palestinians. So if we look at the Palestinians living in West Bank, where I am living, and I see my geography is shrinking over time. When I was a child, I was able to go with my sheep kilometers and kilometers, and now I cannot go out with my sheep. When I feel safe where I can go in the mountains and the landscape, and now I cannot. When I was able to build a house, and now I cannot. When I was able to travel, and now I cannot. When I see all these restrictions on my movement, on my people movement, and this, you can see the difference. You can see how the transformation of the daily life of the Palestinians, which can lead to a smooth Nakba, a smooth catastrophe, because you make the people lose hope. And that is what the Israelis want, to see the Palestinians taking any opportunity to leave the country and to bring a new, let's say, Zionist coming to live instead of me as an indigenous Palestinian. And the Israeli policies actually became more overt over time and become very clear over time. Despite the fact that there is like foundations for two-state solution, but this is like a lie, I would say, or a fake issue to make the annexation and confiscation of the land of the Palestinians. The design of the West Bank, the geography, everything make it clear that there will be no Palestinian state. There will be no future for the Palestinians if things goes like this. And parallel to this, we saw some international changes. that laid the ground for Israel to be more clear and overt and to what they are doing. The first thing that I noticed is I'm talking about the last decade, not about the last few decades, is Trump. When Trump became on power, that was a green light for the Israelis to do whatever they can. And when we look at the peace map between brackets and the proposal of Trump administration to solve the Israeli-Palestinian issue, you can see clearly the bias, the ignorance, and everything against the Palestinians, as if Palestinians are a few immigrants came to this country and we can give them any piece of land, whether in Sinai or any other things, forgetting that the Palestinians are here for centuries and centuries, and the relationship with our land is different than the relationship between colonizers and the land. So that's, they don't know. So the approach itself from the third parties is killing for us. Whether the way how they are understanding peace, whether the way how they are biased to the colonizer, whether when they are seeing the colonizer as part of their project in the Middle East. So all of this make Israel more appetite to eat more Palestinian land. And especially when Trump say, I'm not going to evict an Israeli from the place where they are. So that was one thing. I noticed it was like a transformation point in the struggle that changed the daily life of the Palestinians, that changed the future of the Palestinians. Immediately after Trump announcement, we saw how settlers, how Israeli settlers become more aggressive, how they start to establish the new outposts in the West Bank. And when I talk about outposts, it is even illegal according to the Israeli law. So they start to spread and to occupy land. 50 Israeli settlers owns land more than the size of Area A that is controlled by the Palestinian Authority. This is since Trump. So imagine a town, a Palestinian city, with more than 30,000 Palestinians living in it. The size of the land is less than the size of the land that is given to one settler, to one shepherd settler. So that gives us an indicator where we are going in the future and how is the situation in the future. Secondly, what has came out as a result of the series of the elections in Israel, because it was like a struggle to give a birth in 2021, 22, what kind of Israeli government will be. And there was like 6 elections in a very short time, but the baby came out. And this new government is the main pillar of this government are the settlers, and not the ordinary settlers, the extreme settlers. We are talking about Ben Gvir, we are talking about Smotrich, who are the pillars of and the leaders of the extreme settlers who are leading the attacks against the Palestinians in the last 20 years. So those people, when they were in, let's say, in a kind of confrontation with the army and the administration, they become the army and the administration. So imagine how much this impact on the Palestinian safety and the Palestinian access to their land. Since 2022, everything has changed in terms of settler attacks, in terms of land confiscation, in terms of building illegal outposts and settlements in the private Palestinian land. So the things tripled. According to the United Nations reports, everything has tripled and increased. So imagine how this impact on the Palestinian daily life and attacks against them. So that's also another factor that transform and make the daily life of the Palestinians impossible and unsafe. And according to the figures of the United Nations and the human rights organizations, including Israeli human rights organization, reflects the Israeli policies against the Palestinians. So, and this continues until the 7th of October. when what happened on the 7th of October make things upside down in relation to the settlers in the West Bank and even in East Jerusalem, in a way that they become the government, they become the army, they become the police, and they become the even the legal system itself. So what they didn't achieve, if you remember, there were like demonstrations in Israel against changing the juridical system in Israel and so on to give the Netanyahu the power. Everything changed and the power is given to the settlement, to the settlers. And that is very, very scary in a way that those people, the motivation of some of them is like ideological religion issue. And in a way that they are easy, they can kill. So from the new government in 22 up to October and after, we start to notice that there are two ways. The first is the settlers, that we start to count how many settlers killed from Palestinians today, how many olive trees they burned or chopped, how many houses they burned, how many landscape they burned. So in every day they are doing things. This morning I was coming here, while I was driving, I was listening to the news. A friend of mine who was arrested with his daughter and son. His son is 11 years old because they were standing on their land and the settler came with his sheep and the sheep entered their field full of grapes and olives. Because they pushed the sheep, they arrested the son, the father, the daughter. So that's I hear. The second, the news that the settlers put a caravan just in front of a Palestinian shepherd community in the south. Another one is that they burn a huge landscape in the east of Ramallah. So on daily basis, there are attacks. And these attacks, you cannot challenge in such situation. So in a way or another, we found ourselves freezed as humans. You know, when you face this brutality, you don't know what to do. However, if we look at the responses of the Palestinians to the Israeli attacks and violations, in the past, before the new government, we were able to organize nonviolent actions. We were able to do the sit-ins, the accompaniments with shepherds, farmers, and all the tactics of nonviolent resistance, including the legal aspect of it. We sometimes go to the Israeli courts. We never won a case. And I analyzed this not only as an activist and as a behavior, I am also as a researcher. I conducted a research over 3 years about the unarmed civil protection as part of a team that was spread not only in Palestine, but also in South Sudan, in Colombia, in Myanmar, in many conflict zones. And we found the most dangerous situation is here, is in Palestine. So the people are relying on 3 circles of protection. The first one is the locals. So the locals are using different forms of mobilization for the protection, including their heritage and culture. And the name Faz3a is coming from there. Faz3a means social support. Back in the days, centuries ago, if you want to do any agricultural activity or any social activity, the people come and support you. So back 200, 300 years ago, Faz3a was carrying a social meaning, supporting each other. But nowadays, it starts to include political support, and it converts and it transformed from social to a political issue. So we are relying on this. And we are relying on the family relations. We are relying on the traditions of these communities so that they can stand with each other. After October 7, the people, for example, stopped grazing their sheep, stopped thinking about protecting the land. They start to come together to stay in one house or two at the edge of the village. So if they die together. It's shame if we leave our neighbor stay alone. So this shame and honor is a source of mobilization for the people. That's why we say Faz3a as in a way that it's kind of mobilization, a traditional indigenous way of mobilization. So the people are using this other circle, which is the internationals. The internationals are a crucial factor in protecting the Palestinians on different levels. First, sorry to say this, that the people is looking at the color skin. The skin color is a kind of protection in a way or another. And the second is the privilege. We are talking about privileged people coming from the West to solidarity with the Palestinians. And that is something is good in a way or another. The third is the Israelis. Also, the Israeli activists who are coming and joining us, also they are privileged. Even they are facing less challenges than internationals. Internationals might be deported, might be sent back home, but the Israelis, they will not send them back to anywhere else. So these three components of protection are very important. And this is something two ways. The way you give me support and protection, I give you also support and protection as a local. So no one is working without the other. In a way or another, they are dependent.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really beautiful translation. So how did this campaign start? How did it come to life?
So this campaign came out as a result of seeing the systematic and frequent attacks against the Palestinians living in the countryside, seeing that no one is able to protect the Palestinians. Even the Palestinians themselves are unable to do anything. When they are trying to do anything, they shoot them. We are talking about tens of Palestinians who were killed by the settlers. So we thought that the only way to protect the Palestinians is through joint struggle, is to bring people from all over the world to be with the Palestinians. And that will inhibit the settler attacks, will make Israel pay the price if they do anything against the internationals and the Israelis. And that's where the idea came out. And also, we saw that there is some states start talking about the protection of Palestinians, putting some sanctions on settlers because of their involvement of terror attacks against Palestinians. And we said, okay, if this is coming from the state, how about us as grassroots and community-based organizations? And I think that should be our initiative as solidarity groups, as people on the ground, in order to do this, not to wait until it goes to the tables of the states, and they will not do anything at the end. There will be like political game that it will come out without paying attention to the suffer of the people. But we as people, we know what does it mean, the suffer of the people, because of lack of safety from the settler attacks. So that's the campaign idea. It's coming like this, and it will make a noise, that make the noise that will reach the MPs, that will reach the political parties, that will reach the doors of the governments to do something. I mean, what makes Germany do what they do against the solidarity movements in Germany? I mean, if there will be more noise, at least the German government will let the Germans protest for Palestine. And that's something we hope that it will achieve this goal. And there is a kind of sympathy nowadays with Palestine. There is a kind of shift in the public opinion for Palestine. So we need to use all of that in this initiative, which lead to the protection of the people on the ground. We need safety. If we miss safety, then it will lead to uncertain future, whether in relation to violence or in relation to being apathetic or in relation to losing hope. And that is very dangerous. So we need, through this campaign, to bring hope to the people and to show us a bigger image of different colors, of different small pictures from activists all over the world in order to pass a message. This is the way we build peace. And this is how we people understand peace. And we have to build this bottom-up approach that can change the world. Not only, and we want to give a lesson to other conflicts in a way, this is how it works. Even if your enemy is Israel, that enjoys the support of the biggest colonial powers and empires. This is the message that we want to deliver to the world about our campaign.
So basically showing genuine solidarity by showing up.
Yeah.
For those who maybe can't because they're not able to come to Palestine out of different reasons, how can they show support here on the ground? What can, for instance, Germans here in Europe do to give you support?
I think one of the things is that what is happening now in Palestine is the absence of the Palestinian narrative and what is really happening in Palestine. And in this way, the people who are there are the one who are able to deliver the message of the Palestinians to the German people. When I listen to the mainstream media in the West and see how they are ignorant and see how they are telling lies to the people, our message for the people who are back home in Germany and beyond, you are the cornerstone for our campaign because you are our ambassadors. You are our messengers to tell the truth about what is happening in Palestine there. And when you are able to tell the truth, you are saving the people of Germany. You are opening new windows for the German people in order to understand the reality by their own lenses, not by the designed lenses that is never telling the truth. And that is very important. So through those people who are there, who are searching and telling the testimonies of the Palestinians and the testimonies of the German activists on the ground, they are opening a window of knowledge and a new epistemology for the German people to come out and to think out of the books of guilt, the books of the shame, and seeing never again in a different way and a wider way. So that's where we think that this is a new knowledge production, not the knowledge production that was formulated for the people in order to be obedient people, in order to follow the government and to find themselves as agent for the government, whatever the government is saying. We are human and we have the ability to think and to decide, not as reports by the regulation and guidelines the governments are giving us in order to be obedient and agent for them. That's where thinking for the people being in Germany to spread the message of the Palestinians, not because they are Palestinians. When we are talking about Palestinians, we are talking about all the colonized people, all the people who are oppressed living in this unjust situation, as well as the freedom of the Palestinians is the freedom of the Germans. And when we have our freedom, they will have their freedom. What makes the police repress the people in Berlin streets is because they don't want them to see the truth. Is because they don't want them to look back and forward. And that is the problem. So freeing Palestine is freeing the world. And that's what we want as Palestinians. We do believe that Palestine is the heart of the world. It's exactly the heart of the body. And if this heart is healthy, the other parts of the world will be healthy. And that's why we have to take care of this heart. It's not our mistake that all the religions came here. I would love that if Berlin was 3,000, 4,000 years ago was existed and Moshe, Jesus, everyone went there and buy land. It's not my mistake that Abraham came from Iraq to buy a piece of land in Palestine. It's not my mistake if Prophet Muhammad take transit from Jerusalem to the sky. It's not my mistake that Jesus was born in my city. I am here as a richness. I don't care about the religion. I don't care about skin color. I don't care. I care about the humans with the values that they are carrying. That's the message of our campaign. So let's protect the humans, whoever they are.
Yes, thank you so much for this powerful message. And everyone who was just listening, you heard him. Please follow the campaign, follow the Faz3a campaign, keep speaking up for Palestinians, keep highlighting their voices, highlighting their narrative, because Palestinians cannot stand alone in sacrifice. Thank you so much for listening today and have a good day.